What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about how spells work in Hogwarts Legacy. And we got a good amount of info during the gameplay showcase. So what I'm going to do the same thing I did for that Headmaster video a few days ago. I'm going to play you the clip in which, the round table, the panel, is talking about how the spells. Now, they talk about the rest of the HUD. They mention health. They mention a couple of things they're keeping secret. But let's listen to the whole thing, and then we'll talk about specifically the spell part.
So kind of going over it from right to left, on the bottom right is what we call our spell diamond. Mm-hmm. So those are, everything that you see in it are slottable spells. So we have over 20 slottable spells that you can earn over the course of the game.
Okay.
And that's where the player can place them and use them and access them very quickly. To the top left of that is, you'll see the D-pad, and on the left is an eyeball, and on the right is a bit of a grid. So the eyeball is an example of one of, not a slottable spell, but what we call an essential spell. There are certain spells that are used in very specific contexts, or that we just want on the controller at all times. Mm-hmm. And Revelo is one of those. That's left on the D-pad. On the right on the D-pad is that grid represents where you might slot spells. And so right now, today, we're not going to be going into the spell slotting menu because we feel like there's a lot of spoilers there. You know, like what are all the spells and what can we do?
I would like spoilers, but I understand.
But we do want to make sure there's still some goodies left to share with everyone. On the right, the green bar is your health, and basically there's a potion next to it. That's how you might heal. The bar above it, we're keeping a secret for now.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the spells. One thing I want to talk about, though, and I rewatched this before I, started recording this video, just so I can maybe pick up on anything I missed, the first time around. So they mentioned the health bar, and they mentioned the 3 that you saw was, potions, basically gives you health back. The thing above it, they say we're keeping secret. That has got to be, in my opinion, that's your special ability. So that's when you're raining the lightning bolt kind of down in the state of play that we saw. That has got to be that, because it's next to the spells. It's got a meter, so it's going to be limited, right? You can't just do that spell over and over and over again. It still begs the question, where does Crucio and Avada Kedavra, like those spells, where does that go? And maybe we can talk about, my speculation a little bit as the video goes on. So let's go over the spells. He said it, but we're going to go over it a little bit more in depth, I guess, kind of expanding on what he said. So you see this, the far right, you see it says, R2. And as we saw later on in this thing, it's when you just tap R2. If you're just tapping it, that's just a basic attack. That's when you're just flinging out a basic attack. And you can see that later on the training dummy. If you hold R2, then it becomes the actual spells that you see. Very much inspired, and we've said this before, but it's very much inspired by Dead by Daylight. Those are, in fact, it's the same layout as the perks in Dead by Daylight, which is not a bad thing. Not saying they stole it. I'm saying they borrowed it, and it's a good model to go and borrow anyway, so it's fine. But you then use them. So you'll hold R2, and then you'll press, say, X, and you'll use the bottom one. So you have that, and in that 4 count that we have there, there's going to be over 20 spells that you can put on. And those 20 spells are, as he says, they're going to be earned throughout the game. Okay, 20 plus. Now, there's awesome videos, honestly, online. I know Andy Reloads did one, good friend of the channel, where he kind of broke down like every single spell that's already been shown in the game. I'm pretty sure we already know pretty much every single spell we'll earn, but in terms of maybe the ones we can use very often, maybe we don't know that yet, but those are going to be slotted there, right? And you can slot them in and out, which we'll talk about in a second. So then in the top left, when he talks about, to the left of the spells, and he has there's the D-pad left and right, and there's the eye, which is the revealing spell, right? And then you have the right, which is the grid. Now, what's interesting about this is he talks about how the left side, or I guess specifically the eyeball symbol, is like an actionable spell. It's a spell that's used for very specific reasons, and those are spells that they want to be able to keep on the D-pad at all times, so you're going to be able to use it. Now, what's interesting is it's only right now left and right. So right is taken up by the grid. I assume that's where it's going to stay. So my question, or I guess my speculation, could be the revealing spell being on the left. I wonder if there's going to be 2 more, because you still have up and down, and that's right now kind of like blackened out. It's not lit up white, but I would assume, because he mentions it's plural, he says there's more than one. So the left one, that's an actionable spell, but it sounds like there's going to be more that you will use for very specific purposes in the game, and that's what's going to go on that D-pad. And then the right side, now I would have loved to see it, but like he said, I mean, it would probably contain spoilers because you would see the spells. So I assume if you hit right on the D-pad, right, that's the grid, you're gonna see a list. And I don't know, maybe if it would blow up and be like on the whole screen. Kind of doubt that. Maybe it would just be like a smaller thing on the right, bottom right side, but it would list all of the spells that you currently have, and then you can swap them in and out of the spells that you're using. So we were right. I mean, our initial kind of gut reaction, I know there was the speculation at some point that you would have like two groups of 4. So it would be R2 and maybe L2, and it would be another 4 spells. It seems like it's only right side, right, the R2, and you only have those 4. So you can only use 4, like when you're in battle, you can only use those 4 at any given time, but you can swap any of the spells that you already have in those 4. And ideally, you'd be swapping them without going into, a menu. So you have that. And then I guess the final couple things, remember, blocking and parrying is separate. That's just triangle. That's what they talked about later on, that I think if you press triangle or if you hold it, maybe that's what makes like the barrier. And then if you time it right, if you press triangle at the right time, that's when you would kind of deflect and you would shoot your own blast back at them. So that's kind of separate as well, right? So blocking / parrying is put to the triangle button, and then these are all on basically just R2 and then the D-pad. Do those unforgivable curses count? And I really don't know the answer. My gut reaction, my gut feel would be actually yes, because I don't know where else you would put them, right? You have that meter, which I'm very much assuming is your kind of special, over-the-top magic, and then you have that grid, and you have left on the D-pad, and then you have up and down, but I do think up and down, again, is going to be other actionable spells. I don't think it's going to be the unforgivable curses. So it's possible maybe those 3 get slotted in, and they're just normal spells that you can use at all time, which would be quite something. Especially Avada Kedavra, I feel like would break, and we've talked about this before, I feel like it would break it, right? Because if you're doing like a training thing with the students that you literally see in this showcase, you can't use Avada Kedavra on them if they're on your weapon wheel, your weapon slot, right? So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to necessarily do that. Maybe that's L2. Maybe they put that on like a separate function on the controller. But there you go. There's everything you kind of need to know about spells as of right now. Let me know what you think. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I'll see you all on the next one.